Oh, and that's a brilliant effort, and they've turned it right around. In the space of a few minutes, Saudi Arabia grabbed control of the game.
Welcome to another edition of Dawri. Of course, it's the Arab News Football Podcast where we take a look back at all of the action, including the Saudi Classico, the start of the King's Cup competition, and a very mixed week for Al-Ahli and Ivan Toney. Before we get into it, we would like to wish everyone in Saudi Arabia a belated Happy National Day, which was, of course, on Monday. I hope you enjoyed the day with your loved ones and indeed probably managed to get some watching action in from your team. Great. I mean, some big matches to look back on last week and so in the Saudi Pro League as well. So who better than our very own Arab News sports editor, Ali Khaled. Welcome back, AK. It's been a big week.
Hi, Peter. Good to be back. Yes, the Saudi Classico in Riyadh, we discussed it at length last week. It went in favor of the home team, the champions, the favourites, Al-Hilal, of course. Al-Hilal and Al-Ottohad went into the match with perfect records. In fact, Al-Ottohad were top of the table after their 7-1 win last week. But it was the Blues who ran out 3-1 winners. We will discuss that match more in details with our guest.
I think he had the right score, by the way.
He did have the right score, indeed, yes. And Al-Nassr won 3-0 at Ittifaq. Ittifaq were the only other team to have won their opening three matches. But Steven Gerrard's team were given a bit of a reality check. But it's still been a good start for them. But at home against Al-Nassr, I think Al-Nassr, who'd been a bit inconsistent, played quite well, won 3-0. Some interesting times at Al-Ahli, who had a dramatic win in the SPL, followed by, a really, surprising defeat in the Cup, in the King's Cup. We keep saying they're one of the most exciting teams around, and this week we saw them at their best and then at their worst. The team from Jeddah were one of four teams, four top-tier teams, on the receiving end of big shocks in the King's Cup round of 32. Al-Khalij were thrashed 5-2 at recently relegated Al-Tai. Al-Jabalain beat Al-Fatih 2-0 at home. Another SPL team, Damak, went down 2-0 at Al-Najma. The names of these winning teams, lower tier teams, will not be familiar to many fans. So well done to all of them on really famous victories. Like some of them will be like some of their biggest wins of all time, really. But the big one was a truly shocking 2-1 home loss for Al-Ahli against Al-Jandal. Absolutely no one saw that coming. This was a strong Ahli team. They had Roberto Firmino and Ivan Toney in it. Mendy in goal, Ibanez at the back. They were 2-0 down at half-time by the first half hour, actually. And though Toney scored 82nd minute goal, I believe there was no dramatic late comeback. Incredible result, and congratulations to Al-Jandal. They deserve all the credit. Must mention the names of their goal scorers: Matuk, Saeed, Yassin, Amir. Enjoy all the acclaim, boys. But elsewhere, in the rest of the round of 32, the results went as expected. Al-Hilal, Al-Nassr, Al-Ittihad, Al-Shabab, Al-Ta'awan, they all went through. And so really, after their, a big win, which we will discuss soon, Al-Ahli brought down to earth in the King's Cup.
Great stuff, Ali. I've got a question for you before we bring in today's guest. Just going off what you've said about those results, some of the lesser teams picking up results and what we would consider to be the household names. Do you think it's a level of football that the lower teams are bridging the gap, or do you think that the big players, the big teams, are just struggling for consistency at this part of the season?
No, I don't. I mean, the gap is quite big. I do think that the Saudi, but certainly Al-Ahli should be winning a game like this, and it's surprising that they don't. And if it is a case of teams taking their foot off the pedal, a little bit, like taking it a little bit easy. It's something that I wouldn't understand, because with Al-Hilal being so dominant and, probably, likely to win the league again, the King's Cup, which is a very popular competition in Saudi Arabia, is another avenue for the other top clubs, the SPL clubs to maybe get some silverware. It's not easy. I mean, like you've got these two big competitions, but which Al-Hilal are favourites for, and of course Al-Hilal probably favourites in Europe as well. So for teams like Al-Ahli, should be taking this competition seriously. I'm not suggesting they didn't. It was just a shocking result. The gap between the SPL and and the rest is a big one, and it shows off the 18 matches. SPL clubs only lost 4. So they should all be going through, really.
Absolutely, totally agree. Okay, time to bring in our regular guest. Looking forward to this one, who no doubt will have an opinion as well. Expert on all things Arab football, and now expert at predictions. Welcome back to the one and only Matt Monaghan. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. What's the phrase? A stop clock is right twice a day, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think you're being a little bit humble, but a great prediction from you. Listen, I can see in the studio, Ali's list is literally as long as the league table of talking points. So I'm going to let you gents get to it. Ali.
Hi, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. So, Matt, we'll obviously quite a bit. We'll get to Al-Ahli, a very interesting week for them. But we got to start off with the Classico. What did you make of the match? I mean, you as Peter mentioned, you predicted 3-1 to Al-Hilal. In the end, not a massive surprise again. Al-Hilal just keep going.
Yeah, I think what I would say is that I think you've got a very settled Al-Hilal team against a new look Al-Ittihad team after one of the all-time worst title defences last season. So I'm not going to be too negative on Al-Ittihad at this stage of the season. I think this was, I guess, if they take this as a learning experience, but Al-Hilal set the standard. They're just quite an incredible team. Ruben Neves, I think for me, Ruben Neves there's like a quiet brilliance to Ruben Neves. He got 2 assists in this game, helped. I mean, Al-Ittihad were 3-0 down even before half-time, quite a bit before half-time. They just, that pivot between him and Milinkovic-Savic there's such quality, such physicality, such experience between the pair. And they just provide the platform for everyone else. And I thought he was a real class apart. And I think another important aspect of that is the age profile of Neves and Milinkovic-Savic there. The other side of 30 to Fabinho and Conte. I think that could be an issue for Al-Ittihad. Their attack is actually really exciting with Bergwijn, OR and Diaby. I think Fabinho and Conte, maybe in these big games, can be found a bit lacking against Neves and Milinkovic-Savic. But it's early days of the season. I think Al-Ittihad have got plenty of positives to look back on in the early weeks of the season, which I'd say is actually in a contrast to their Jeddah neighbours, Al-Ahli, I think, who have much bigger problems at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, just sticking with Al-Hilal for a bit. I mean, you mentioned Milinkovic-Savic, who was excellent last season and has been really throughout since he joined Al-Hilal. Ruben Neves, maybe took him a little bit longer, or a little bit more under the radar, but also performing great. But we have to talk about Mitrovic, really. Just for me. I mean, up there with Ronaldo as the best signing by any club in Saudi Arabia over the last couple of years. Just keeps scoring. What do you make of his continued brilliance?
He's had an absolutely ridiculous start to the season, hasn't he? Is it 18-4, which is he's already several goals ahead of anyone else in the scoring chart in Russian Saudi League. And he's just a lightning bolt up front, isn't he? That's, I think, how I would describe him. He's just a force of nature. And the mind goes back to obviously people like Bafatouni Gomis were just so beloved by the Al-Hilal fans. And Mitrovic is very much in that tradition.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Al-Hilal obviously being the favourites for the league and the cup and in Asia as well. But, pragmatically, you need... 4 or 5 players to be at the top of their game throughout the season and all that. And you've already mentioned Neves. You've got Milinkovic-Savic, of course. Salam Dawri, you can be counted on. Yassine Bono is probably the best goalkeeper in the league. And, with Mitrovic, injuries aside, it should United like almost guaranteeing the goals. It's really hard to see, like how you can stop them. They do have like about 6 or 7 players absolutely at the top of their game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I guess a show of strength. I did the commentary for Al-Ahli versus Al-Hilal in the Kings Cup round of 32. And a much changed Al-Hilal team still had 3 players that started for Saudi Arabia's last World Cup qualifier. And that just shows like, and then they did a substitution at one stage where it was like Salah Al-Darsi and Mitrovic coming on. And it's just, they've just got such strength and depth. The squad's been really well put together over the last few years. And you've got guys like Cancelo's coming now. Cancelo played left back, right back. He also played quite a lot of the game in that new hybrid full back in the midfield role. They've just got so many options. And yet again, let's fast forward to the winter. You're probably going to have Neymar coming into this team in replace of Renan Lodi. So it is ominous for the rest of the division because Al-Hilal they've already got a 3-point lead in the table. The only team with a perfect record. They blitzed Al Rayyan in the AFC Champions League Elite. They ticked over against Al-Ahli in the Kings Cup, just like they did at this same stage last season against Al Jabal. And I don't know, the worrying thing is that all signs at the moment point to the fact they could be out of sight by Christmas. Well, I said winter, and then you get Neymar to come in.
Yeah, I mean, last season, it's a good point. Last season, obviously, in the end, they ran away with it, but Al Nassr did keep up with them, maybe 2/3 of the season, shall we say, before Al-Hilal ran away with it. This time, with the others, Ittihad, I guess, in a way, being put in their place. Al Nassr have had a slightly inconsistent start, but they were back to winning ways. Against, Ittifaq, as I mentioned, like a bit of a wake-up call or a reality check for Ittifaq. But good performance by Al Nassr away from home, against a team that was performing well. Yeah,
and again, the perfect start for Pioli. Ittifaq had been really solid so far this season. Several 1-goal victories. It took them to the 3rd match day to concede a goal. And I felt quite good about Ittifaq, but Nassr they're just great. They just looked to cut apart, didn't they, in the game? And again, you feel that it all comes together with Pioli. I have certain concerns about Pioli, how good a fit he is for Nassr. In fact, that his AC Milan team was tactically fluid. It was about young players. That team that he brought inspired to a surprise Serie A title, which are things that you would not say about this Al Nassr squad necessarily. It might jar, but the start's been great. And I guess the other side of being, if you are tactically fluid, you can be quite pragmatic. And maybe Pioli's going to come in, just work on a system that that fits, and then go with it. And a 3-0 victory at Ittifaq, it really doesn't get much better than that for a start.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great result, and as you say, good start for Pioli. But even at this stage, it's very, very early, Matt. But even at this stage, they really can't afford like a sort of a betting in period, because as you say, Al-Hilal could be out of sight by Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, if you count the first competitive game of the season for Al-Hilal was a victory, but it was obviously a victory on penalties. But they've won every game so far this season: the Saudi Super Cup, Russian Saudi League, AFC Champions League Elite, and now the Kings Cup. So they've been victors in every game, and they've absolutely shot out the starting blocks, haven't they? Which I guess as well is teams they won practically everything last season apart from the AFC Champions League, and it shows the hunger still inside and the quality inside the squad. I think for me as well, again, I've just mentioned about, I go back to João Cancelo, I think looks such a good addition, just that injection of quality and winning know-how into the squad, into an already fearsome squad.
Yeah. Well, moving on from Al Nassr, like as you said, they were back to winning ways. Ittifaq, tough defeat, I believe, but it's still a decent start for them this season. As you said, they looked solid before, and I guess losing to Al Nassr is no great, nothing to be ashamed of, really. They are, despite their inconsistencies, they still, had they're very, very strong lineup. Ronaldo scored again, and Talisca got on the score sheet again, scoring the 3rd. So yeah. I think Ittifaq shouldn't be too downhearted. They won in the cup as well, so we'll see how they react to that setback.
There's a great, sorry to interrupt, there's a great fixture coming up this weekend, isn't it? Al-Tawun versus E44. I think that's maybe the battle of the potential dark horses, maybe the best of the rest. So I think for me, I'm fortunate enough to be commentating on that game as well. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing that game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One of the ones to keep an eye on. We're moving on to Al-Ahli. So, Matt, they had like a brilliant league win last week, a 4-2 win over Damak. They Ivan Toney scored twice. Roberto Firmino scored the winner. Was it like 8 minutes into stoppage time? And then
Toney was even more than that.
Yeah, and then Tony's was 16 or 17 minutes into stoppage time to make it 4-2. Amazing stuff. Like the scenes. I mean, the celebrations of the players. It was quite interesting. Shows like obviously what it meant to them. A very late win, but ultimately a 2-goal win with a 2-goal margin, which in the 90th minute, it had looked like a draw. What did you make of that match? Before we move on to their cup result.
I guess it was a crazy game, and also maybe a harbinger of what was to come. So a 4-2 victory, which contained 2 goals well past the 90-minute mark for Al-Ahli. But also, I think they're really struggling to get Firmino and Toney maybe in the same system at the moment. Like Damak having almost 20 attempts on goal at Al-Ahli. That's not sustainable, things like that. And you can see why the fans are maybe getting on the back of Geisler a little bit now, aren't they, at the moment? Yeah. And I'm a big believer in Geisler. I think he's a young coach, a visionary coach. He did great with Red Bull Salzburg. I think a real visionary hire by Al-Ahli, not to just go for, you normally see like, for a lot of clubs, it's not only 50-year-old plus Brazilians or Europeans, but instead they went for a young German manager, which is something almost unprecedented, really, and certainly among the big clubs in Saudi Arabia. And obviously, it's a bumpy start to the season for Al-Ahli. They're already several points behind Al-Hilal after doing. I think they did really well to finish third last term, and you just wonder, will Geisler survive this turbulence at the moment?
Yeah, and of course, all of that leads up to their, King's Cup defeat. Absolutely shocking result, really. And no excuse
for it.
There's no
way to describe it, is it?
No. I mean,
Al-Shams aren't even a good First Division League team. I think they're in the bottom 3 of Yellow League or Saudi First Division League. What can I say? I mean, it was 2-0 after 30 minutes. Ivan Toney can only be considered now a late consolation in that game. It's not a good look, is it? There's no other way to describe it. I'm looking at the team now. The spine of the very spine of the team with Mendy, Demiral, Ibanez, Vega, Al-Jahani. I think is a kind of underrated player. Firmino and Toney. So that's the spine of the team. And to lose to a team inside the bottom 3 at home in the King's Cup round of 32 of Yellow League, it's a hard one to defend.
Yeah, I mean, Peter was asking the point, like, should some of these lower tier teams, be given credit and all that? You can imagine a team like Altay, winning their game, surely it's but not as big of a shock. But this, there's, as you say, it's hard, it's a bad look, and not really much way to to analyze it. They were it was not like a late. Winner, where it's like, a bit of a smash and grab. It was 2-0 up at halftime, and it took them until the 82nd minute for Ivan Toney to score that consolation goal, as you said. And even then, you would think they've got 10 minutes, couldn't pull off complete a comeback. So, it'll be interesting to see how, they react. I mean, you say the coach is under pressure now. I want to talk about their next game in a bit, but first, Ivan Toney, what have you made of his start? I mean, obviously he scored that goal in a game. I don't think he'll take too much pride in that one, but 2 goals in a 4-2 win against Damak. Do you think he's had a decent start to his time in Jeddah?
Yeah, and I think he might be on penalty duties again soon as well, after a quite humorous incident where we had Mahrez called seniority. Missed the penalties. He often misses penalties. I think the expression on Toney's face, that was quite amusing the other week. Yeah, I think Toney's he's a 28-year-old current England international, isn't he? and he's now very much started scoring goals. So it's just I guess it's about now getting the rest of the team in the right shape.
Yeah. Well, I mean, their next match is, you speak about like some of the pick of the games for the coming round, match day 5 in the SPL. I'm really interested for the game between Qadsiya and Al-Ahli. Obviously, Qadsiya, we've mentioned a few times, could be one of the stories of the season. As you said, promoted Qadsiya, now owned by Aramco, and obviously Al-Ahli on the back of that exit. Could be a really interesting match, this one.
Oh, I totally agree. I think Al-Ahli are the textbook, really. They're the textbook example for where Al-Qadisiyah, I think realistically as well, where they could be this season. But Al-Ahli were obviously famously relegated, instantly promoted back, went on quite the shopping spree, didn't they, last summer, sweeping up superstar names and managed to return in 3rd place. Then you look at the Al-Qadisiyah lineup, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility, is it? Now, recently in the league, we had that, obviously, 1-0 defeat at Al-Shabaab, and then a 0-0 draw at Al-Ottohad, which featured red cards for both teams. I commentated on that game, and Al-Qadisiyah, they did struggle to create chances, but they did have an early red card in that match as well, which they very much made up for in midweek. 4-1 victory in the King's Cup. So yeah, they're coming. I think you've got contrasting results from the King's Cup this week. Plenty on the line as well. It's it's an intriguing match, because how will Al-Ahli approach this? How will the ISLA approach this? Is he feeling the pressure? Is the squad feeling the pressure? Al-Qadisiyah have got real quality in their team. It's at Al-Qadisiyah as well. So yeah, that for me, I think you're right to say that's really the pick of the round type match.
It does look like it, because I think it's on a weekend or match day where Al Nassr are at home to Al Wahda, and Hilal are away to Al Khulud, and Ittihad at home to Al Khalij. You'd expect all of them probably to pick up 3 points. So really, I think this one is quite an intriguing one, and we'll be keeping an eye on. Which game are you commentating on this week, Matt?
So this weekend I have Al Parwan versus Ettifaq. So I think that's also a game with plenty of interest on top of it. 2 teams that, like I was saying before, could be considered, always will like to be thought of as, I guess, the dark horses, a team that could maybe gate cash the top 3, the top 4. That's the top 4 now equals qualification for AFC Champions League competitions. So I think they will believe that, if they have a chance to finish 4th. Al Parwan, of course, finished their last term, and they've started pretty solidly this season. And I guess Ettifaq, it's time to see what type of response after last weekend's chastening results.
Yeah, so I agree 100%. That game, as well as Qadsiya against Al-Ahli, the two really to keep an eye on, the two matches that could go either way. So interesting stuff.
Yeah, and one more thing is obviously Aubameyang got his first goal, didn't he? For Al-Qadisiyah. He was absolutely. Aubameyang was so good for Marseille last season, and also I think he had a suspension carried over in it, which is kind of a disrupted start to the season for Al-Qadisiyah. And let's see now. Is it? I guess what was the phrase that Eric Ten Hag used about Rashford? It's like a bottle, isn't it? So let's see if now he's got that goal, it'll start coming. Goals will really start flowing.
So not only Ali did Matt get the score right last week, he actually, if you remember, said that if Aubameyang could get firing. So you must have been listening to Matt as well. Listen, Matt, you mentioned that last game there, so I just want to get your thoughts ahead of it and give us a prediction, if you would, please, for Qadsiya against Al-Ahli.
I think I'm going to go. I think it's going to be a real big night for Al-Qadisiyah. I'm going to go 4-1 and full panic stations for Al-Ahli.
Wow. Ali, I was going to come to you, but I'm still getting over the shock of that one. That's a big call.
Yeah, I mean, when he said 4-1, I thought you might say that Al-Ahli comeback. But look, Al-Qadisiyah are at home. I do think they'll I think Al-Ahli are in a bit of trouble here, for this. But I don't think. I think there might be a bit of a reaction from them as well after that. Abysmal result in the cup. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
Okay,
I think that's a very good shout. I think that's a very good shout as well.
Yeah, I think there'll be goals, and I think it could be close. But hey, Matt's in the ascendancy, so let's keep our eyes on that one for a big scoreline. Great stuff. Listen, that's it for another episode of Dawri. Massive thanks as always to Matt Monaghan. Have a great weekend, everyone, and good luck to your team, whoever they are and wherever they may be playing. And we'll see you all again next week.